Flosstube friends, it's Sherry, Colorado Cross Stitcher here on Flosstube and also on Instagram. Back with you today about my personal cross stitching projects I've been working on. I've got a ton of stuff to share with you today, and also a little bit of ColoradoCrossStitcher.com shop news at the very end if you're interested in that. So first of all, I've got finishes today. I've got projects that I've made progress on. I have a new start. I have so many things to show you that have to do with storage and finishing. I was gathering stuff in my sewing room today and just got the idea to share with you a bunch of stuff on how I use different antiques or things around the house to store some of my stitching stuff in. So that was kind of fun to pull together, and I'm looking forward to showing you that, and then a giveaway at the end. First of all, I want to tell you I'm sorry I've been away so long. It's been a tough summer for my family. My dad passed away at the end of July. I was lucky enough to be able to spend 10 days with him at the beginning of July, and I could fill this whole video about all the ways that my dad was just an amazing person. I have been close to him my whole life. I'm so lucky to have had him as a father and a grandfather for our kids. And he and my mom would have been married 66 years in August. So he leaves a huge hole in our family. And anyway, I wouldn't be able to get through it if I told you this whole video all about my dad. So, and I know that's not why you're here today, but I wanted to thank all of you who were so kind in leaving comments when I posted the news and a picture of him on my Instagram. I of course read every single comment, and you know what I learned through all of this is how to be better when my friends are going through this. Not better than what you guys were. I mean, you all taught me so much about what really is important during this time. We haven't had a close family member pass away in our family for probably 20 years. So I'm out of touch with the things to do that are meaningful. So, and you all just did all of that, and it meant so much to our family. The cards, the notes, the texts, and just showing up. I'm just amazed at the number of people who dropped everything and came for the funeral, the stories that everybody told about my dad, some things I didn't even know, which were so meaningful to us. And just, you know, I think I've gotten out of the habit of sending cards with emails and texts and all of that. I just kind of went away from cards, and every day when cards arrive in the mail, it touches my heart so much. So I'm going to be better at cards because you all have been so good at that. And the flowers have been beautiful, and they're just a constant reminder of people who are thinking about you and praying for you through the hard times. And then another thing I do that I've got to stop doing, and again, I learned from so many of you, is I always say, if there's anything I can do, please let me know. And I 1000% mean that when I say that. It is not just one of those things that people throw out. I really mean it. But the thing is, when you go through something like this, you really don't know what you need. So I'm going to do better at just doing something. You know, I had friends who texted and said, can I look after your cats while you're gone for the funeral? Or my mom had one of her good friends, the morning my dad passed away, she showed up with sandwiches and fruit, and that's what my mom and brother had for lunch that day. And other neighbors just stopped by with food or flowers or offers to help do this or that, and they were very specific, and it was so helpful not to have to think of those things. So that just taught me a good lesson on how to be more supportive during those times when my family and friends are going through that. So show up, tell stories, send cards, let people know you're thinking about them. That all helped us through a really difficult time. My mom and my brother were able to keep my dad at home because they were just selfless in their care of him, especially in the last months and weeks, and I'm so grateful for that. So that's all I'm going to say about that, but I do want to insert the picture that I shared on Instagram that is a picture of me and my dad when I was little, and a picture from a couple years ago, and then a picture of he and my mom and our two kids and my husband's mother. So I'm going to put that right here. All right, so let's move right into stitching because I have a lot to show you today. Let me get my list here. First of all, my calendar. So this is my book of days, and I know that they're already designing the book of days for 2023. I can't wait to see that. So here's July, and you know I like to fill up a lot of those spaces in there. So that's July, and then here's my start for August. And as I told you, I do sticker up some things ahead because I use that big book of stickers that a lot of us ordered from Amazon. Gosh, I can't even remember the name of it. Abecedarian sticker book or something. And some of them are very specific to different seasons, like Halloween. There were a lot of great Halloween stickers in there. So I do sticker up ahead and then just kind of fill in as I go along and put extra pages at the back, which I've talked about before. So that's my book. Now let's talk about some of the things, and I'm just going to go in order of my stack here. So I did start a new project for August Cross Stitch Camp, which is something that we host well, this is our second year, but we'll host it every year. And this is a pattern I got from the Addict. It's from Quaint Rose Needle Arts called Tetelestai. And I think I saw this around Easter time because I just thought, wow, that would be perfect to put out at Easter. And this is the original that she designed it from. And so here's my progress, and then I'll tell you a little bit about this. I love the border. I think the border's beautiful. I love the cross. I'm not enjoying stitching this stuff so much. And I think it's because there's just too many haphazard things in there. And she was very true to the pattern. So it is not the designer at all. But for example, like, look at this flower down here. Well, let me see if yeah. Okay, this flower right here. Doesn't it look like there was a bite taken out of it by an insect? And then here, it looks like there's something unfinished in there. So I don't want you guys messaging me and saying you missed something, because that's exactly how the pattern is. But it was just it's not symmetrical, and apparently I like symmetrical because both of these are different. And you know, the person who did this way back when, I'm sure she just stitched as she felt like stitching and put things where she wanted to put them, and that's all well and good. I'm just having more of a problem working on it. I'm gonna love the piece when it's done. I have not decided if I want to do the whole bottom part. I want to do Tetelestai, I want to do It Is Finished, and the verse down there. I'm just not sure if I want to do the extra corners, although the corners are beautiful. I don't know. I have to decide. But the challenge for August Cross Stitch Camp was to do something new to you, and I've never stitched a pattern by Quaint Rose Needle Arts, and so that's what I'm working on. And again, that border, isn't that border so pretty? I really love the border. So that is new start since I last talked to you. Okay, I have so much stuff on this table. I know people say that all the time, but I'm not even going to take a picture and show you because it is a mess. And I came upstairs and my husband has set up like an extra shelf over here. So I have 2 layers of stuff to pull from today because I have so many things. Oh my word. Okay. The next thing that I did was I finished Huckleberry Farm by the Blue Flower. Mostly called for threads. I did sub in a couple because we didn't have the called fors when I was pulling this, but most of them are called for. And here it is. Now, I have some things to tell you about this. But first I just want you to see the whole thing and enjoy that. I think that's one of the most beautiful borders I've ever done. I love the vines and the animals sitting on the leaves and just the flowers and berries. I just think that's gorgeous. I love the bear getting into the honey hive over there. I love the yellow house. I love, of course, love the mountains. And down at the bottom, do you see that motif above the bird's head? When I was looking at that on the pattern, I just thought, well, that's kind of odd. And now it's maybe one of my favorite motifs ever. I just think it's beautiful. So it was a really fun piece to stitch. Oh, I always forget to tell you the fabric. Okay, this is 40 count stone by Fiber on a Whim. The Tetelestai was Newcastle Alabaster, 40 count. All right, so the thing is, I already told you on a previous Flosstube that I screwed up the butterfly. I was not a fan of that butterfly. And I made other mistakes in here. I mean, there are so many mistakes in the vines. Again, I guess I have a hard time when things aren't symmetrical or they don't go in a plan that I think my brain follows. It doesn't matter. I didn't go back and fix them. And I don't think it detracts, and you probably can't even tell, so I'm happy that it's finished. And you notice in the middle it says one for me, one for the basket. It wasn't until I was stitching that alphabet that I realized it said that. I hadn't noticed that on the pattern. So this is a really fun, beautiful pattern. I love so many of the things on there and really happy to have it finished. I have a lot of new things I want to start. So I am trying to get some of my long-term whips finished. I don't want to have, and not that there's anything wrong with this for anybody else, but I personally don't want to have 40 or 50 whips in my basket because I love these pieces. That's what I love about cross stitch patterns. You can see a piece that you just think is so beautiful and you can make the exact thing for your own home. And so I want all of these things finished and in my home. So my goal is to try and finish one of my whips each time between Flosstubes. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, but I'm really going to try. For sure at least every other time, but let's just imagine I'm going to do it every time. All right, the next one I had progress on was This Is the Day, and I just had a hard time putting this one down. It is a happy piece. It's got joyful colors. I'm not a huge pink person, but I cannot get over this pink house with the turquoise door. It's just one of my favorites. So here's where I'm at on that. So I think I had some of the bricks done last time. So I finished the bricks and I finished the mortar between the bricks and the little pot that's gonna hold a whole big slew of flowers. And then I have to do the verse down below. But I love the verse. I love the piece. This Is the Day by Plum Street Samplers. That's the other thing. My head is just like, there's been so much going on this summer that I just find myself, I'm forgetting things, or I'm scattered. I can't concentrate on things. That better stop pretty soon. I'm assuming that's all temporary. The next thing I did progress on is His Eyes on the Sparrow by Heartstring Samplery. Not a lot of progress on this, but I am anxious to have it on my wall, so that is very motivating. So I did a few more animals down there in the corner. Now the one thing about this is both sides match. I don't know if you can see that in there. So I'm going to have to do everything a second time on the other side, which is not quite as fun as if it was all different. So what I think I'll do is do the bottom one side, the top one side, and by then I'll be ready to go back down and do the bottom of the other side and then the top, and I think that'll help spread it up a little bit. So His Eyes on the Sparrow. And then I finished my July camp project, and I did finish it before the end of July, and that was Fourth by Hands on Design. And I talked to you maybe in my last Flosstube or maybe 2 Flosstubes ago about how much I enjoyed putting this together. And I did the cat one previously, and that's what made me want to do another one. It was just so fun to put together. And so easy to sew it. You don't use a sewing machine, you do it by hand, and that's how you get your perfect points. So here is that one. I have the little pins in here. Okay, that's one of my new things. I am so into these pins. I think all of my pin cushions need those cute pins. And I'm going to show you a bunch of them at the end because we just started carrying them in the shop. So I did this on 16 count Aida. Let's see what the color is. Platinum Aida. And so you stitch, like I stitched the top, and you get the little piece of wool included with the pattern to put on the top here. And then you stitch one long piece all the way around, and I'll just show you that piece because it's really cute. F is for flag, and it says red, white, and blue, and it has some really cute quilt patterns, little houses, different flags. Got stuffing still coming out. Okay, I'll have to give that a little trim. Anyway, it's super, super fun to do. There's more stitching than you think when you start in. Like that around the side took a lot longer than I was thinking it would. I should have remembered because I know that the cat one took a long time too. But it does not dissuade me from wanting to do more. I want to do the Halloween one. I want to do the bumblebee one. I want to do the coffee one. I'd like to do the winter one. So anyway, I encourage you, if you haven't tried one of these, to do it. You put it together, hand stitch it together, and it's just a miracle. You know, with knitting, when you knit socks, everybody says just follow the directions for the heel. It doesn't make sense, but all of a sudden you'll have a heel for a sock. That's how I feel about this. Follow the directions, just keep stitching it together, and all of a sudden you'll have perfect corners, perfect edges, and a really cute little square pin cushion. So we also got in, I don't mean to talk about shop stuff in the middle, but we got in little houses that are similar to this, not quite as thick, but I think you could stand them up on a mantle, and they're for each season. I think those would be fun to do too. Okay, the other thing I did is I find it hard to stitch when I'm out of town. I try and take my travel light, but there's not always an easy place to put it, and I spent a lot of time out of town since my last Flosstube. So I went to the Needlepoint store in St. Louis and I bought a little kit, and for me, I loved a needlepoint. I just can't figure out how people can afford needlepoint. Well, this was just a little kit, and so it was pre-stamped on the canvas, which makes a big difference. So I did make this cute little eyeglasses case when I was sitting with my dad. Those 10 days I was able to be with him. And the reason it's easy is because your pattern is on the canvas, so you don't have to have a separate pattern that you're looking at. This one was nice because it unzipped so that I could have it flat to do that. And then I'm going to put a piece of wool here on the inside to cover up the backing, so that was really fun. Well, that got me looking to needlepoint things online, and I found a needlepoint canvas that I have been looking for in cross stitching for at least 3 years, and that's this one from Birds of a Feather. I love this piece of, well, I love this design, and I've never found it in cross stitching. If any of you have this pattern, I think it's Joyous Christmas, maybe it's called, but it is this. There's a little more to it in the cross stitching. There's words down here and maybe Merry Christmas up here. If any of you have that and you want to sell it, or you're willing to lend it to me, I would love to borrow it, because although I am going to do this in needlepoint as a pillow, I also want to have the main piece stitched and on my wall. So I will be working on this, and like I said, I'm not going to do a lot of needlepoint because it's expensive. I think it's all hand painted canvases, so somebody takes the pattern and they hand paint it on here, unlike this, which was commercially stamped on there, so this was not an expensive kit. this one, they have to hand paint, so you know exactly what colors to use on what stitch and where, and so I will do some once in a while because I enjoy it, but I was so excited to find this in a needlepoint canvas, hoping that I can find it somewhere in cross stitch at some point. Okay, so plans for next time. Well, I have a few. One of them is, so I was talking to, did I share this with you before? Talking to one of our customers, Kim, and we were talking about this piece, and we got to looking up some of the color combinations that people have used on it, and I got so inspired just talking about it and looking at it. And so I did order hanks. You know, I have a thing for silk hanks. I did order hanks to do this in, so I'm going to do a lot of it in navy and green, and then some pops of color in the yellows and the reds, like the berries, some of the flowers. And the cool thing about this pattern is Jacob, who designs the modern folk embroidery, has different patterns that you can put in these. Well, I guess you could put it in maybe any of the hexagons, octagons. Anyway, there are options in the back, which I can't show you because it's the pattern, but there are 7 different choices for at least these two, and maybe all of the smaller ones, which I think is going to be super fun. So that I've got on my list, and I have pulled 40 count platinum to do that with. I don't need all of these hanks. You know it's not going to take that much, but I don't want to run out. Plus hanks. I love the hanks. So that's one of the things I want to start on. Another thing, talking about birds of a feather, is the Happy Hearts sampler, which I was fortunate enough to be able to get a copy of that this spring, because one of you who knew I was looking for it saw it on a website and texted me. No, you must have messaged me. I think I saw it right after you messaged. I popped onto the website and got it. This is one of those out of print patterns, just like the other birds of a feather that I would like to get in. So I want to start this one. And then I was watching Brenda and the Serial Starter, Brenda and Laura, and Brenda was talking about doing this, which I have had in my stash for probably 2 years. And I just checked somebody out at the shop earlier this week before I saw their video, and they bought both of these. There's a companion piece, and I told that gal, you know, I've wanted to do that for a long time. So I'm just going to jump in and do it. I brought the DMC threads home. I'm going to look for some fabric, and I'm anxious to start in on that. I know I just told you I want to get done with things. I don't want to have a lot of whips, but there's so many things I want to start right now. It's not good. Not good. All right, stash. The thing that I've been stashing lately is fabric, fabric, fabric. Every time we get fabric in, I bring more home, and I think it's really important to have a fabric stash. You know, so many times especially some of the older patterns call for fabrics that you just can't get, or you wait 2 years to get some of that fabric. And I think it's important to have options. Stock up on some of the basics, you know, the non-hand dyed fabrics. Stock up on the hand dyed fabrics when you can. Stock up on your favorites, because when you pull threads for a pattern, and you don't have the called for fabrics, you can lay your threads down on the fabric and see which one would be a really beautiful alternative. Well, you can only do that if you have a needlework shop right down the street, or you have a good stash at home. So I recommend that you have a good fabric stash in your own house, so that you can pull projects anytime you want to and have things that are going to look beautiful with those threads. So that is what I've been stashing lately. Fabric, fabric, fabric. Okay, what's on my list next? Oh, my 3 things. Okay, so today the 3 things are, number 1, mini tomato pack. I was alerted to this by my friend Deb, who is one of our customers at our shop, because Deb brought one of these little tomatoes to me. This is exactly the size tomato. I haven't glued it on yet, which I could also sew it on, but this is exactly the size tomato I was looking for this cute little piece that I did as a freebie for you a while back. This is a sugar shaker from an antique store. It had a flat front, and I knew I just envisioned when I saw it in the antique store, I just envisioned, okay, that needs to be filled with white buttons, and it needs a little tomato thing on the front and a tiny tomato on the top. So as soon as I glue that on, it will sit flat, and won't that be adorable with my tomato displays? So after she left this for me, I said, where did you find that? And so she got it from an Etsy site. They no longer had it, but she Googled it and we found it on Amazon. So I ordered a whole pack of them. They all come as, they're like ornaments because they have a little hang tag. I did cut that off. And I'm envisioning using it for finishing or in dough bowls with my tomato patterns, or back in my white cabinet on some of those shelves. So I will link to this, a dozen of these, and they're not expensive at all. I don't remember how much, but anyway, that was super fun. So that's number one in my 3 things. Second is, and this was another, I think Laura, Cereal Starter, Brenda and Laura, keyed me into this, but these are from the Etsy shop, dolls and their girls, and I will link to that below. And I just thought this little old-fashioned vintage kitten was so cute and a great size for a pincushion. And it came with these 2 little cat pins. And then this one I bought because I wanted a little pincushion to take with me on retreats. Because you know when you end a thread and sometimes you stick it on your needle minder, but sometimes you just want to stick it into your pincushion, or you've got counting pins and a pincushion that you need access to, or you thread multiple needles at a time and you want to keep those. So this was a good size for travel, and it comes in different colors. I think it's a Tula pink fabric, so little teacups, and this also came with 2 little colored pins. So that was fun. All right, my third thing came about when I was, like I said, down in my sewing room ironing for today and pulling out some stuff, and I realized it would really be fun to talk about some of the old antique things that I use for storage for my stitching or for displays, and hopefully it might give you a few ideas on things that you have around the house. Or if you like an assignment, you can go to your antique store and look for some of these things. If any of them just click with you and you think they're things that you might like. So the first is, since we're talking about pin cushions, little salt cellars. Salt cellars were put by each person's place on a table with a little tiny spoon in it, and then you would spoon the salt on top of your food. I don't know if they didn't have salt shakers at the time, but you can find these pretty easily at antique stores. They're usually like cut glass. They come in different shapes. You'll find some squares and rectangles. And this one just had a felted ball popped into it. That would also be easy to make, and it's a great size for using as a pincushion. And this one I keep next to my stitching spot. And the nice thing is it's weighted, you know, it's a little bit heavier than maybe this pincushion, which is not heavy at all. And so it gives a little weight so it doesn't tip over or get tippy. So look for salt cellars at your antique stores, or if you have little containers like this, think about putting a little felted ball in that. Now the felted ball, easy to make. I think you can buy them, but also just take a square of felt, stuff it really tightly, pull the ends together, and then glue it right in the bottom. So that's a fun one. And then also talking about shakers, this is the salt shaker that I bought. It came with these hat pins in it, which I just left in there. But this is what I use for all of my used needles. So it has a bunch of needles, probably 30 needles in there. So when a needle gets bent or the end gets a little burr on it, or whatever, it's time to retire the needle, I just put it through the top, one of the holes in the top. And when this gets filled, which is frankly going to take forever, when this gets filled, I'll dispose of the needles properly then on the inside. But I keep this next to my stitching chair so that I can just pop those used needles in there anytime I need to. Another thing that I keep by my stitching chair on the side table is a flower frog. Now flower frogs look like this. They come in all different sizes. They were put in the bottom, and maybe they still, I don't think they still use these. These are glass. But put it in the bottom of a vase, and then you can stick the stems right into the holes, and it helps keep them upright. Well, it's also really fun for scissors. This is actually the one I keep down in my sewing room, because the one I keep next to my stitching chair has a piece of felt on the bottom so that the scissors don't go through. But really fun, especially if you collect scissors. It would also be a really fun little display to go along with your stitching stuff. So flower frog, those are called flower frogs. Another thing that I use sometimes for scissors is a little ink jar. You can find really fun ink jars at antique stores, and they're not very expensive, but they're great for keeping your little pair of scissors handy. And I haven't done this, but it wouldn't be hard to cut a little felt circle, roll it up, and put it down in the bottom so that your scissor points are protected. I usually just keep more of the antique scissors that I kind of collect in here. So, but it would be good for your regular scissors that you use for stitching too. All right, another glass container. This is a sugar jar, whatever. And I like to keep these for my twine, baker's twine that I have. Just have to make sure you find one tall enough, because I've gotten some that are too short and I end up using them for other things. But the nice thing is you can put your twine up through the top and just pull out however much you need, and it's a fun way to display it. So you see the pretty colors, it protects it from the dust, and then you still get to use it. So that is a sugar pourer, or whatever we're going to call it. And then tins. You know I love tins, so I have a lot of tins to show you. And well, first let me show you this, because I have to move it. Okay, this was a fun find at the beginning of July at an antique store in St. Louis. And isn't that a cute way to display those pins? Now those are all pin pillows from Keeper of the Pins, With Thy Needle and Thread, that wonderful book. I'm not sure what this was originally used for. It was just like a little bench. I don't know if it's a little doll bench or what. But the minute I saw it and just the green color, I thought, okay, that's going to be perfect for little tomato pin pillows. So this is a way of looking for antiques that you can use for little display purposes. So that came home with me. All right, then here's another thing that I love, and that is this tin, heart-shaped tin. Anytime I find a heart-shaped baking tin, I buy it because I just think they're so cool. But it's perfect for your needle minders. So I have a few little pin cushions in here too that I put on magnets, but a perfect place to put your needle minders. And it looks decorative. Now I wish it had a hanger on the back. I have one in my kitchen that has a hanger in the back that I put up there, but this one does not have the hanger, but it would be fun to hang near your stitching chair. All right, now let's talk about, nope, I have one more jar to show you. This is an old coffee jar that I got, and I keep old tomato pin cushions in here. Now I have a long way to go in filling this up. I really kind of just collect old tomato pin cushions when I see them, and if they're a reasonable price, some are not, but a lot of them are. So I have this going in my sewing room too, and I love that. Okay, now let's talk tins. I love this little peanut butter tin. It doesn't have the lid, but I found this at an antique store one time. It has a little handle, and I keep ribbons, spools of ribbon in here. Quite a few. well, 4. Okay, 4. And so that one's fun. I did not buy it for ribbons. I bought it because I liked it, and then I find a way to justify it in my storage. The thing is, I love all of these things in my sewing room, and I did do a tour of my sewing room. I think it's my Flosstube number 11. So you'll see a lot of these things, but I like having them around, but I also need them to be functional and have storage put in there. So that's handy. Here's another one that I really like that I think also keep ribbons in. I'm not sure what this was, but I just like the fun latch on the front, and I like the color, and it has one of those decals. There must have been a period of time when everybody put decals on different tins, because I have a few of those. But again, tins are great for trims and ribbons and that kind of thing. This one I got because I love the colors in here, and I love the design. And I keep tags in here if I want to tag my project bags that don't have a clear front. So I keep tags in there for identifying my project bags. But man, I just love the colors in that. Homemade ginger wafers. And then I have this little thing. I think this was like a, not like a sand pail, but something along those lines. And again, love the colors, love the design, and I keep my empty thread milk floss cards, they're not cards, floss rounds in there for using with my DMC. This is another one that I originally bought thinking that I was going to put a finished piece on top, which is also really a fun way to use old tins. Here's another one that I'm going to put, I think, a 4th of July thing in there just because I love the red, white, and blue. So I'm going to finish the top with one of those. But I keep all of my extra button makers, button forms. You know, all those little buttons like I have back here that we all did for a while. So I've got extra button forms in here. And then I have bigger tins. This one, again, another one that I bought because I loved the colors going on in that tin. I love old tins. I remember when my friend Janice and my good friend Steve got married, and they were on their honeymoon, and they stopped by and visited us in St. Louis. This was before Paul and I got married. But Janice and I were really into cross-stitching, and she had like 3 different cookie tins like this with her cross-stitch projects. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, okay, that's all I need for any trip ever I want to take, is if I have 1 or 2 or 3 cookie tins with my projects in it, I am good for a long extended period of time. So I do love collecting them. This one I have some of my old hoops that I don't use. I don't really use the, sorry for the noise, I don't really use the spring tension hoops anymore, but I tucked them away in here till I'm ready to get rid of them. This tin I love. I remember buying this at an antique, not the antique store I go to all the time, but it was when we were visiting Fort Collins, and we had just looked at our house, which is 5 minutes down the road from the antique mall, and we were going through there, and as we were going through, Paul and I were talking about, should we put a bid on that house? Do we want to do that? And so I have good memories of that. But I bought this one because I loved the shape of it, and also that yellow ship on the front. It's not in the greatest shape, but it doesn't matter, and it has good memories for me. So in here I have different packages of trim. Now, of course, you want to make sure if you're buying tins that they are clean on the inside. If I was going to put a project in there, I would definitely put it in a plastic first. You don't want anything to rust on the inside. It's not going to rust if it's not damp, but you just want to be careful with some of these older used tins that the inside is as clean as you want it to be. And then the last tin I have is, I have 2 tins from my grandma. My grandma always had 2 tins of cookies going on, and they had a second story that was not heated or air conditioned, so they didn't use it very often. But you open the door and there were these really steep steps going up, and she always had 2 tins of cookies on those steps when we came to visit, and this was one of the tins, and these always had hazelnut cookies in them. She made these delicious hazelnut cookies, and I love having this tin. I love having both of her tins from that because they just remind me so much. And it's so fun because it's got a spinning wheel on it, and kettles, I think guns, horseshoes, lamps. That's a really cool tin. I'd love to know where she got that. You know, these things you think about after people are gone. Why didn't I ask them that? Why didn't we talk about that? And in here I have all my chenille. You know, I love finishing with chenille. And so I have all of my chenille pieces in there for finishing. All right, and then the other thing I get antiques for is for finishing projects on, like this. I told you I'm going to do a 4th of July finish on that. Books, I like to buy little books. I've shown you this one before to finish on. It's hard to find the perfect size book. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink because some of this stuff is dusty apparently. Okay. It's hard to find the perfect size once you've finished a project, but if you have a book you want to finish on, it's not hard to measure the size of the book and then figure out your size of fabric that will fit well on this. And I just love these little books. Some of them, you know, you want to make sure they stand up. So I always, before I buy them, make sure they stand up because that's how I want to display them. And make sure this cover looks okay. I don't care if the front cover is not good because I'm going to cover that up anyways, but I'm always looking for cute little books at a reasonable price. You can frequently get them for $5 or less, and that's pretty cheap. That's cheaper than a frame. And can't you just see like a bunch of little books lined up on your mantle with different Christmas pieces finished on them or what have you. I always look for tins, so this is a really old tin that I found, and I got to find the perfect round piece to finish in that. This I know I showed you a while back. I don't know what I'm going to finish on here, but it's the cutest little dust pan. Is that what they're called? And I just thought, what a pretty green. I can do something Christmassy with that. So anyway, when you're looking for things, looking for antiques, look for just different things that you can finish on. Look for things that might be handy for storage. Again, tins are always fun. And then the last thing I always look for is frames. Anytime I find an old wooden frame that has been sometimes chalk painted, I mean, this is a really beautiful color, or I'll just also regular wooden frames. And if they're a reasonable price, I always buy them because usually it's cheaper than custom framing. Now this one I thought might be really cool for this, depending on if I can find the right fabric and if that's actually the right size. But I love these frames. Okay, if you're in St. Louis, the St. Louis area, go to that antique mall off of Tesson Ferry. They have a whole booth full of old wooden frames that have been chalk painted in different colors. It's when you walk in the door, go to the left. It's in the first aisle to the left. And I thought, man, if I still lived here, I'd be in this place all the time. Round ones, large ones, small ones, perfect. So much fun. Okay, so that is my 3 things this time with an extended third thing, a lot of things to show you. Let's talk about drawings from last time. So the people who won the drawings last time, a new drawing for this time, questions of the day, and then I'm going to show you some new things in the shop if you're interested. So last time I had 2 drawings because 2 wonderful bag makers donated these for you guys. The first one is Deborah from Joyful Stitching Store on Etsy. I always link to her because she always sends me bags to use for giveaways. And Diane Eckler won this one. It's a double set. It's got the little accessory pouch in the bottom. Deborah puts matching floss in it for us. And so this one goes to Deborah Eckler. and the keyword on that was red. So not Deborah Eckler, Diane Eckler. Diane, please message me your address, and my email address is below, so you can send me an email. And then the second one was from Diane at Quilt Walker CO. The CO is for Colorado, I think, because I think it's a capital CO. Again, I will link to her below, but she sent a set also, a project bag, a big project bag and a small project bag, and special tea in there as well. And the winner of this is Dawn Bosniler. I wrote it. Dawn, if you can contact me, email me, and I will get this right out to you. All right, this next set, this drawing for next time, I am so in love with how pretty this is. It just makes me happy. So the keyword's going to be happy. Just look how pretty that is. You've got berries and lemons, blueberries, strawberries, cherries. Just so beautiful. Comes with the little accessory pouch. Comes with 2 matching skeins of DMC floss. And so if you're interested in this, leave a comment below and include the word happy in your comment, and we will draw for that the next time. All right, question of the day last time. This was kind of fun. What color would you paint your front door if you were going to use the DMC number that matches your house number? Well, not all of us have house numbers that are represented in the DMC line, but you can get pretty darn close. And it was just fun to read about your different door colors, because a lot of you said, well, I would definitely not use that color, but my door color is a beautiful navy blue or whatever. So it was just fun to see all of the different door colors you guys have. Let's do a question of the day this time. What have you repurposed, since we're talking about storage, have you repurposed anything in your house to work with your stitching, whether it's for finishing things or it's for storage things? Do you have any interesting ideas for repurposing something in your house that works well for your stitching? So that's our question of the day, if you'd like to answer that. All right, that's all for the Flosstube part, and I'm just going to share a few things that we've gotten into the shop lately. Thank you so much for your orders, as always. We just have so much fun pulling and packing them. It's coloradocrossstitcher.com. I always link to that below as well. And an extra special thank you to Bonnie and Sarah, and also my husband Paul, for covering the shop when I had to be gone so long for so many different days in July. Okay, still the dust. You know, you think you have everything dusted, and then I don't know where it comes from. First, let's talk about patterns, because we've just added new patterns from, okay, well that one's going to be mine because I somehow crinkled that up. New patterns from, okay, stop, think. New patterns from the Prairie Schooler that are some fun Halloween ones. I've got new patterns from the Humble Stitcher. I've got new patterns from Brenda Gervais. So, Halloweenies. I just think the Prairie Schooler does such fun, bold, graphic designs. And this is an example of that. You look at each one of those patterns and they're just so fun as ornaments, or little pin pillows in a dough bowl, or, you know, putting 4 together in a series for a set. I still want to make a holiday wall somewhere in my house where I can do things like this that don't stay up all year, but I can swap them out. But I just think all of these, I mean, that witch cracks me up, the scaredy cat. Look at the house on the top. The house almost looks scared. And I love the owl in the middle. So this one's called Halloweenies from the Prairie Schooler. And Nevermore. And this is an actual sampler, Halloween sampler, which I think is really cool. And I also love the pillow of the crow. I don't know, he's holding a key, and I love the fence, but the whole thing as a sampler is really kind of cool too, don't you think? Again, simple, not a lot of colors. This one is When Witches Go Riding. I love the big piece, but I could see doing parts of that big piece, you know, like the bottom part without necessarily the verse. But I also love the foursquare with the moon and the pumpkin, the witch and the cat. Isn't that cool? When Witches Go Riding. This one is Witching Hour. I love that they include the smalls. That was something that I try to do when I design patterns too, is I always want to include at least one small. But I love the Halloween night in particular because it's got that tiny little street of houses at the bottom. And then Sweeping Cobwebs. Okay, this one I want to do that row of cats down on the bottom holding their pumpkins on poles. I think that would be adorable. I also like the moon with the cobweb and the spider coming down in that little 6-piece one. Do you see that at the top? That's fun. This is one that I'm keeping because I wrinkled it, but that's okay because I want to do several of those. This is called Bump in the Night. We have ones that are not wrinkled in the shop. But again, just really fun little pillows or little things. And a lot of these things are just for Halloween, but there are some, like the owls and some of the different animals, that you could get away with for carrying it into Thanksgiving and not having to put it away after Halloween. That one's going to me. We also got the Just Cross Stitch Halloween edition in the shop, which has so many patterns in it, so many fun ones. So that's available. You'll find that under What's New. And then I just pulled a few more autumn ones. So this is Brenda Gervais, what is it, Jack-o'-lantern Jubilee, with several small pillows there on the back, you can see. And then we ordered some more of her fall patterns. So this one is Spirits and Spells, Bittersweet and Broomsticks. I don't know if bittersweet grows in Colorado or not, but I think bittersweet in a vase in the fall is just so beautiful when those seeds pop out. This one is the Witch's Brew, Gone Batty, Boo to You. I love this one because look, she's wearing a candy cane necklace. Of course you have to make that one. And then her two latest ones, Be Thankful. Love the colors in that. That's also going to me. And Autumn's Acorn Gathering, Mr. and Mrs. Squirrel. Fun. And then we have 3 new ones from Silver Creek Samplers. Izzy Decayan. Izzy Decayan. And we have Flying Lessons. Happy Halloween. I just love the composition of this with that cat in the middle. So cool. Then from Stacy Nash we have Jack-o'-lantern, Sewing Pocket, and Chatelaine. And those little chatelaines are so pretty. They can also be made into little tags for your project bags, scissor fobs. Really cute. And then I mixed in we got new ones from the Humble Stitcher, so I'm not sure if these are some of the new or some of the older ones. I did pull a lot of the new ones, but Home for Halloween. The thing I love about hers is they're primitive stitches. They look like they'd be quick to stitch, and it's just fun. What is it? Witch's Night, All Hallows Eve, let's see, Sunflower Days. That's one that could stay up through Thanksgiving, even though she's a witch. I mean, you could make her as a farmer girl without her witch's hat, although the witch's hat is cute. And then some new Christmas ones. All is Calm. I love that log cabin house. Yuletide Angel. And Schoolhouse Sampler. Also sweet. So those are just a few of the new patterns we've gotten in. Always remember to check under the What's New category in our shop, because I can't talk about all of them in our newsletter. I can't show them all on my Flosstube, but I do put all the new patterns in that section. We've also added a Versoix Soie d'Alger silks to the shop this past month, and we've waited months for that to come in, so we're really excited about that. And then lastly, okay, all of these pins from Just Another Button Company. So these go with these hands-on design pin cushions. So in all of her pin cushions, like this, she's got a set of buttons that go with it. So here's the 4th of July one, but we have them for all of the different sets. But then, because I was getting so into all of these fun things, I also ordered a bunch of triple sets of pins, so smaller sets, and a couple of individual ones. So here, I'll show you the two individual ones. We have the bees and the tomato, and the tomato has a little pin stuck in the top. I think that cracks me up. It's just kind of fun. Whether you're going to put them, I mean, you could put them in your little salt shaker that you use for your old needles and just have that be decorative and change those out with the seasons. Or if you're giving a gift of a pin cushion that you've made or a pin cushion that you've bought to a friend, it's just really a little extra pop to put one of these in the top. So we have those two singles, but then I have a lot of here, so you can get 3 bees, or this jar of honey cracks me up. I love that jar of honey in that trio with the little beehive and the little bee. Then we have some spookiness for Halloween. Those little monsters and ghouls. I think those two are fun. And we have, let's see, I think I just brought the cat, but I have a cat and a dog. No, cat and a dog. Cat and dog here. The dog comes with the bone. The cat comes with a little bird and hearts. And then we have a couple of limited edition ones. So this one is fun because it has Uncle Sam, and then of course I had to have the gnomes. That one is also limited edition, but both of those are adorable. Well, here's another fall one, a crow with a sunflower and pumpkin. I hope that's focusing. If it's not focusing, you can see them very well on our website. And then we have little Christmas lights if you're going to make a Christmas little pin cushion. And we have a cardinal, a snowflake, a snowman. I love that one. And then mitten, a coffee, and a snowman on that one. I mean, once you start going through these, it's like you feel like you want all of them. And now I want all of my pin cushions to be, it's almost like pin cushion jewelry. It's just so fun to add to. And then we also got in these little, because you know I just started, when I have to frog something, which I don't like to do, I just started using seam rippers and keeping one in my project bags. So this is a one that I'm going to travel with. So it's little, but watch. Just flips right up, and then when you're done you just flip it right back and it stays covered. So we just added those to the shop as well. Okay, I think that's all for today. Again, thank you for all of your kind words and your kind notes and your cards about my dad's passing. Thank you for your patience since it's been longer than normal since I last Flosstube. Thank you for your patience during camp, because I know sometimes I've stretched my days to 2 or 3 if I was traveling or in the middle of all of this stuff, and I'm still checking all of your posts and keeping track of all of the camp projects. It's just taken me a little longer to stay on top of that this summer, but I know you understand and I really appreciate it. It's been fun to spend time with you today. Don't forget to answer the question, have you repurposed anything? in your house for storage or finishing purposes that you want to share. And that's the question of the day. Also, if you want to be entered into the drawing for the project bag, use the word happy. And I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you the next time. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.